You've got questions, we've got answers.
And I think that makes your pathway to university a lot easier.
The brain,
A voice.
Especially the first year if you pick the right subjects in year 11 and 12.
Information.
Here, and those signals run down through the spine.
Here in our studio, we'll be bringing you the answer to these questions and more. Join us for InfoMate. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of InfoMate. Today we're lucky enough to be joined by our guests, Chairman and Founder Ian Kernan of Clean Up Australia Day and Terry Ann, the General Manager of Clean Up Australia Day. Now they've come back onto the program to tell us a bit more about their organisation and to give us some helpful tips and advice that we can do to recycle and reuse more at home. Thank you very much for joining us in today's program, Ian and Terry Ann. Appreciate you guys coming in. Now Ian, with Clean Up Australia Day, how much rubbish are we taking off the streets each year?
It's about 17,000 tonnes a year.
That sounds extraordinary to me, just that amount of volume. How can you explain it in a way where our Australian viewers will understand sort of how much volume that is?
Oh, it's 17,000 ute loads.
That's it, isn't it? So a ute load, I mean, it's extraordinary just the amount of rubbish that we're managing to pull off. That would be litter on the streets otherwise, wouldn't it?
Well, that's right, and so well done the people for getting rid of it.
Excellent, excellent. And Terry Ann, what is this rubbish mostly comprised of? What are you pulling off the streets?
It's a lot of small stuff nowadays. So there's a lot of cigarette butts, there are bottles and cans, there are plastic bags, there are pieces of paper, there are, sometimes there's the larger things like white goods will be reported, so small white goods. We'll get bits of carpet, we'll get some dumped whole rubbish bags of dumped stuff, and then of course people find some really unusual items along the way as well. So we had an eye reported one time, an artificial eye.
Wow.
Which was reported in Queensland and claimed by a person in Victoria, so that was interesting. We get all sorts of stuff, but it's a lot of fast food wrappers. It's things that are consumed in transit or things that are people taking to a picnic and unfortunately leaving behind them.
That's unfortunate. Now, is the rubbish that we're collecting going up over the years? Are you seeing any reduction in the amount of rubbish being collected over the last few years?
Unfortunately, the trends are showing us that there is no reduction in cigarette butts. If anything, that has remained very stagnant, hasn't it? It's stagnated. Yeah. And the reason for that is that there may be less people smoking, but they're all smoking outdoors now. So everybody's out smoking outdoors and not enough people are binning their butts. So we're finding still a lot of cigarette butts. The other thing that we're finding is this food packaging has increased. So our dependency on single-use items has got out of control. So we don't tend to want to reuse anything. We just use it, and we're buying things in smaller and smaller containers, and we're throwing them out immediately. So we really have to break that tie and start thinking about what we're buying when we're shopping. That's where it starts. What are we taking home in the first place, and what are we taking when we're out and about? Let's just start thinking about buying things in larger quantities and breaking it up into smaller quantities at home and using reusable containers.
No, well, that's
because
it, isn't it?
You are paying for the packaging.
Of course
you're
you
not
are.
getting it for nothing. You're paying for it, and then you're paying to get rid of it.
That's unfortunate. So what are your hopes over the years to reduce this rubbish that's coming off the street? Are you hoping that, do you want to see a reduction in the amount of rubbish that you're collecting? That would assume people are throwing away less.
Well, you see, we're getting more and more volunteers out there, so of course the volume is going up.
That makes
but
sense.
I think we're making progress.
No, that's excellent. And education campaigns to try and educate the consumer at home, the general public. What are you guys doing in that front there?
A lot of it is to do with what you're doing when you're shopping in the first place. So we try and encourage people to take their own shopping bags. And we'll have a greater uptake of that as shopping bags slowly be eliminated across things like your supermarket. And so people will then get into the practice of taking your own bag. So we try and make taking your own bag interesting and exciting. And there's things like, there's a nice array of new baskets and things that are coming onto the market. And there's reusable bags that are more attractive, so you're more likely to use them. But the challenge is you guys, because you have your pockets, not handbags. And so it's trying to come up with things that you can carry on your person, so that when you do get there, you don't get caught. And that's the big thing, is to try and encourage people to start. So things like coffee cups, and that's a classic. How many cups of coffee do we go through in a week? And if we take a coffee cup every time, then you start adding them up, and that's probably a really good exercise to do. If you continue to take coffee coffee cups across a week, just put them on your desk and see how many you can replace with just taking your own coffee cup. And there's lots of cafes around where you can take your own cup now, and they'll actually give you a discount for taking your own cup.
It's a good trend. I have noticed that.
Really
Some
good
of them,
trend.
Yeah, will give you a cheaper price on your coffee if you bring your own material, which is excellent.
And we've seen cafes that have said, that's it, we're not going to give out cups at all.
Wow.
So if you turn up and you want to take your coffee with you, they will give you a crockery cup to take with no expectation of you bringing it back.
That's extraordinary.
It'll be because they're determined to get rid of the coffee cup.
Reduce the rubbish. Wow. And are we doing anything at the school level for a bit of education for these children as they're growing up, Terry?
So we've got a range of programs that have been designed by teachers for teachers, and they're all curriculum linked. And so what happens is the teacher can download the program and come up with something that is really engaging for the kids, gives them great activities to go out and do, and talks about what happens to the rubbish, and also gets the kids to take the lesson home and do rubbish audits at home about what's coming into their house and what's coming out. We've now got them so that they're enacted on smart boards as well, so we can make it competitive between schools. So there's classes that compete from one school to the other.
Yeah, so they know how much
to see how much rubbish they
collecting.
can reduce in their homes and in their school grounds.
I think it's excellent that it's just part of the school curriculum to educate these kids. You know, they've got to tick it off to make sure it gets done so that they know a bit more about rubbish and recycling at the young level.
And at the high school level, we've got an audit system going where the kids themselves actually audit the amount of rubbish that comes into the school, and then they have to work on a program that replaces the current rubbish collection process in the school and saves the school money, because the schools are paying for their rubbish to be taken off campus. And so what these kids have to come up with is a program worked with their school to reduce the amount of rubbish that's coming in, and also to reduce the cost of getting rubbish off-site. So it's a whole of campus.
It is. It's very involved, which is excellent. The more people get involved, the better it gets for the community.
That's great.
Now, Ian, we mentioned to make progress forwards, you've had a lot of help and assistance with the media for Clean Up Australia Day. What sort of assistance has the media coverage provided you?
The media have been fantastic. Because the media have recognised that the people really care about this issue. And so this is going to help them sell more of their product, whether it be a radio program or a newspaper or a television program. So thank you to the media.
So they've been giving quite a positive coverage of the Clean Up Australia Day event over the years?
Oh yes, excellent. And we've made it easy for them. We've packaged it up very neatly for them. So it's easy for them to grab and then to implement. So it's doing well.
Excellent. And now, Terry Ann, with the advent of social media over the last couple of years, have you found that sort of changes the way you're trying to target the event?
Oh, the media mix has changed quite dramatically. So traditional media, as in you buy the newspaper, is really reducing, and it's all being replaced by digital versions of that. So people are picking up their news as they want it. They're not necessarily linking into exact times to pick up news anymore. They're just picking it up all day. So digital media is certainly replacing a lot of traditional media. But the television commercials and the radio commercials and things like that the stations run for us free of charge is a huge boost to us.
Oh, that's excellent.
And then of course you still get your traditional media. There's a lot of people who like their old-fashioned local newspaper. And they're brilliant at running where the local sites are, where you can get information, how you can link into all of this. So they do a great job. Socially, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, absolutely all helps, because it's just different ways of people getting information. And the way people are getting information is changing every day.
Wow. And throughout the year, do you have any other programs? Is Clean Up Australia Day just the one day that people can get involved?
No, we have everyday cleanups, don't we? So we've got about 1,000 locations across the country every year that run all year round. And in addition to that, we have the Great Northern Cleanup, which is north of the Tropic of Capricorn, and that runs in the second half of the year. So that's around about October, because at this time of year, these guys are often underwater. So by October, it's the dry season. And so what's happened is it's at the end of the tourist season and before the cyclone season. So it's a great time to get in and get all of that accumulated rubbish out of all of the beautiful gorges and things before it all gets washed back in as part of the wet season.
The formula is there. So the people have only got to just grab the formula and apply it, and they're away.
Excellent. And so back in 1989 when you started it, Ian, did you imagine that it would be where it is today?
No, we did it as a one-off event. but the people just grabbed it out of our hands and said, we want it, it's ours.
Excellent.
And it is theirs because they select the sites, they provide the volunteers, and they make it happen.
That's excellent.
Yeah, it is.
Excellent. And now, apart from that, I think you mentioned earlier as well that prevention is the key to stop rubbish ending up on our streets.
Yeah, exactly.
So, where it comes to prevention, what can we do at home to try and help alleviate some of this, Ian?
Oh, your purchasing policy has a lot to do with it.
Yes.
You've got to realise that whatever you buy has got every chance of ending up as a proportion of the waste stream.
Wow.
So if you buy, and the kids will make sure this happens, Mum, Dad, don't buy that product, it's over-packaged.
Yeah.
It's great.
It is.
Yeah, it's
It
excellent.
is. So we should be aiming for more recycling initiatives at home.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where we can.
There should be no such thing as waste. It's got to be regarded as resource, and resource equals dollars.
Yes. No, excellent. And Terry, we've got some examples here of some rubbish that you would find every day.
Yep.
Now, out of all this, what are your suggestions on some of the stuff that we can do with it? So we've got a water bottle over here as well.
Yep.
We're talking about that outside the show, but do you mind telling our viewers a bit
Yeah,
about this?
so our water bottle is really interesting because it's a lightweight plastic. So what happens here is it's actually made up of 4 pieces of plastic. So we've got our lid,
Yes.
we've got the little ring that attaches the lid to the bottle, we've got the bottle, and now we've got the plastic label. They're all different grades of plastic, and they all require different sorts of recycling. And what happens here is that this is what's called a lightweight bottle, so it's pretty much at the end of its life.
Yep.
Because what happens is, if you think about the plastic starts off a lot thicker, a better quality, and so as it's recycled, goes through recycling each time, it reduces its quality as it goes. So this one's pretty much at the end of its time.
So recycling it, there's not much more we can really
Not much
get
more
out
you
of
can
it.
do. However, it's got, see this little bar here, that
Yes.
10 cents? It's still got value. So let's get it back into the recycling mix, but it's likely to, its next life will probably be as a plastic bag.
Wow. And we were talking about it before as well. We've got the humble coffee cup here.
Coffee cup. Another coffee cup.
I mean, this feels like paper to me.
Does
that mean I can recycle it?
Technically, no, you can't. They will, in some cases, they will still take it,
Yep.
and they'll put it through mixed paper recycling. But you do need to certainly take the lid off for a start. So get
Yep.
the lid back into your plastics recycling, and then rinse it out and put it into your paper. But there are issues with it. The paper recyclers do not like it because it's got a heat-proof coating
Yes.
on it, which they have to strip off, and that requires heat for them to strip it off. So they don't like them, which is why we're trying to discourage people taking them in the first place.
So we should be looking at just using reusable coffee cups like you mentioned before.
Get yourself a reusable coffee cup. Get yourself a collapsible cup. You can get them now where they fold up. They're only about this thick.
Yeah.
Go in your pocket.
Oh, excellent. And I mean, that's not all we have here. We've got the styrofoam cup as well. I mean, will that just end up in a landfill?
The styrofoam cup is a real challenge because there's not a lot of styrofoam recycling available in Australia.
Yep.
There's one place in Homebush and there's a place in Victoria. They don't take domestic polystyrene, they only take commercial quantities of polystyrene. So it's a really difficult one, so it's going to end up in landfill.
Yep.
And it's full of air. You have a look at how light that is.
There's no volume of plastic in it.
Yeah.
No, it's a real waste. And what we're finding is any polystyrene that goes into the environment gets broken up really quickly.
Yep.
And so it turns into tiny little beads, and those tiny little beads get ingested really early in the food chain. It's a disgusting one. The quicker we can get rid of polystyrene, the better.
Yeah. And we've got a banana here as well there.
Beautifully packaged.
It is, as the way nature made it. So what can we do with our green waste?
Our green waste is really important. We need to separate it. Look, a lot of us are living in home units now, so it's not possible to have a compost bin on your balcony. That's just not going to work. But there are some good council initiatives where they will now collect your compostable waste from home, your kitchen scraps.
Yes.
The important thing is to try and keep them out of landfill if you can. Yeah. So maybe in your apartment block you may be able to do a communal composting area of some description. Yep. You can get bokashi bins and things like that for smaller volumes of. But try and keep your compostable waste out of that. Look, it comes beautifully packaged in a skin. You don't have to put that in a plastic bag when you buy it.
Yeah, at the supermarket.
You can actually take that home exactly the way it is.
That's excellent. Now, I've also noticed that some councils give you the option of a green waste bin as well, which is excellent. So I'm sure that would help most people at home if they've got that option.
Well, the green waste bin, remember, is for your garden waste. It's not for your kitchen scraps.
Okay.
So yeah, that's important because the kitchen scraps require a different form of composting than your garden waste. If you think about your garden waste, there's a lot of green leaves, but there's also a lot of sticks. So that goes through a completely different process to soft stuff like this. So try and keep them separated, unless your council's pretty innovative, and there are some, which will allow you to mix the two.
Wow. Now, Ian, I've got something here that you might like. What are your thoughts on the old plastic bag?
I mean, plastic is a fantastic material. It's so durable and it's got such a role to play in our day-to-day lives, but it's a shocking piece of waste. It is so durable, and what we've got to do is say no to the plastic bag.
Yep. So if I was to throw the banana out, I'd imagine in a couple of weeks the peel would eventually disintegrate or go back into the soil. What happens with these? Is there?
It'll outlast you.
Wow.
And
there we go.
And you. It'll outlast the three of us all added up together.
Yep.
And what's more, if you put that banana inside that plastic bag and put it in there, the banana might break down, but it can't escape.
Wow. So it's unfortunate
captive banana.
that we're going through millions of these, I'd imagine, on a nationwide level.
Oh, absolutely.
Through the if you imagine the volume that we're going through the supermarkets. So what are some options that people can do rather than taking one of these?
Bring their own cloth bag. Say, I'd rather have a paper bag, thank you.
Yep.
So there are lots of things. You can just avoid the plastic.
Yeah.
When you do your fruit shopping, take a box.
Yeah.
I mean, if the fruit comes to the fruit shop in the boxes, the fruit shop destroys the boxes.
Yes.
So people like Harris Farm have put the boxes out for people to take. So now people take home their box and their fruit in a nice tray.
Excellent. And they can recycle the cardboard afterwards.
Recycle the cardboard afterwards. So there's
There you
lots of things that we can do to try and reduce that, and just keeping it nice and simple. It doesn't have to be complicated.
Do we have a nationwide policy on plastic bags that you know of, Terry Ann? Or New South Wales is not on board yet?
New South Wales is not on board, so each state is progressively coming on board. Queensland will be next.
Yep.
Queensland's legislation is really interesting because what happened when the ban of plastic bags was brought into, for example, the ACT and Tasmania, they banned a certain thickness, so it's a micron level, and they banned up to 35 microns. So what happened, some retailers came out with a 40 micron bag, so it's only just slightly thicker, and that's just taking a loophole in the legislation.
Skirting the legislation.
Yeah. That's right. Now in Queensland, what they've done is they've said not on. So they have banned the lightweight plastic bag, they have banned the degradable bag, which retailers in all good faith buy, thinking that they're doing the right thing. But a degradable bag actually breaks up quicker into smaller pieces of polymer.
Oh.
The bag that you need is a biodegradable bag.
Yes.
Now in Queensland's case, they've said, sorry, it's still not good enough, because in their climate, the biodegradable bags don't break down quickly enough in the environment, so they still do damage. So a biodegradable bag breaks down in commercial composting. Not enough commercial composting available.
Yes.
So what they've done is they've gone, that's it, plastic
bags
are finished and done with. And we'll progressively see that roll out.
Yeah.
The supermarkets are doing a good thing from the 1st of July. You won't be able to get a single-use bag. In the supermarkets, you're going to have to go down the reusable
bag.
That will make a big difference.
Yep.
But we need consistent legislation, don't we, Ian? Because so what we need is that the local stores, the corner stores, the convenience stores, the $2 shops, they all have to stop handing out plastic bags.
It is. Yeah. It's unfortunate that so much waste for what it does just ends up in landfill without being recycled. That'll outlast all of us at this rate. So it's everyone should be doing what they can to get these reusable bags at home in their cars, so they can take them to the shops with them. Now, we also want to talk about what we were talking about with the bottle there. What we can do with it is, at the moment in New South Wales, Northern Territory, South Australia, we can get 10 cents back for it, right? Which is, if it's got no recycling value, at least it's got a cash value now, which is 10 cents here in New South Wales. What should communities be doing to try and capitalise on that waste? What do you think, Ian? What should we be doing here?
I reckon you wouldn't walk by one, would you? I mean, if you saw it on the street now, you pick it up.
No, well, you're seeing money.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going to pick it up.
Yep.
And that's good.
It is.
It's then, where does it go from there?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At home, it's not such a big deal, is it? Because we've all got our recycling bins at home. So so when we're consuming stuff at home, we put it into our yellow bin, these bottles. And what's going to happen with those now is that they'll go back to the council. The council will take them out. So the waste management contractors will take them out, and they'll get them back into the recycling stream. And the money that they're worth will go back to the council. So that'll go back into local infrastructure, and that'll help offset some of the costs of localised initiatives, and that's a really good thing to do.
So I've got some of these schemes around me locally, and I noticed that someone brought in a whole bag of bottles and cans, and now some of these you can tell have been picked up off the street. They're either old or faded, or they're dirty, and I thought that was just, it's such an extraordinary thing that, you know, over 200 bottles have just been in one hit taken off the streets of my town. Now,
well, that's good.
It is. It's an excellent thing. So the scheme itself has a lot of merits, and I think people should get involved. It's a good thing for schools or communities, hospitals, charity organisations to make a bit of a game about it, collect the bottles around town. It gives people an opportunity to give a little bit back to those communities as well.
Absolutely, and it adds up.
It does.
Surprising how quickly it adds up.
That's it.
And it's rewarding as well, because it's got quite a big volume. So you see these bags of bottles and cans growing in front of your eyes, and hey, they're all money.
Thank you very much for joining us on today's program, Ian, Terry. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So I hope we've covered the main points with our recycling today. We know that there's some schemes available, like the container deposit scheme, to help get litter off the streets, and we know that it's crucial to educate our children into reusing and recycling, and for us to do all the measures that we can at home and at work. We look forward to bringing another production of InfoMate from MTA International, Australia Studios. Jazakumullah and Khudafis.